Gotta get a permit.
I will call to order the regular meeting of Town of Gibsons Council for April 8th, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. And we're honored to be gathered on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. We first need to approve the agenda as per item 2.1. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries. And we have one set of minutes to adopt, and another one just for information of the Board of Variance meeting. We'll need to adopt the March 25th, 2025 minutes, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? That motion carries. The other minutes are there for information. Are there any questions? I don't think there would be. Pretty straightforward. And now on to, they're just for information. Bylaws, we have 4.1 and 4.2 are regarding catching up on the rezonings of these cannabis stores that we've had it on a previous agenda. And we gave direction to go ahead with these, the readings. The first one can go up to adoption, 4.1, and the second one up to third reading. So we'll start with 4.1. Now, I just want to check with staff. Did we, for this one, Marine Drive, I know we did get a piece of correspondence today in support. Did we get any other correspondence regarding this?
Thank you, Mayor. No, we just got that one piece of correspondence supporting the application.
Okay. Yeah, and because this is a first reading, it's not a variance. We don't have in-person correspondence or in-person submissions here either. It's just we invited written submissions, I think.
Through the Mayor, you passed a resolution to waive the public hearing, so we sent a notice out for first reading, and so there is no public hearing for this rezoning.
Yeah, and we just got the one item, one item of support. So, Councillor Kroll? Up to where? Because you've got some all up to adopt first reading, second to third to adoption. Yeah. Okay. So that's first reading, second reading, third reading, and adoption, and it's seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And now on to the second cannabis store at 1095 Sunshine Coast Highway. These are both businesses that have been around for some time. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade up to third reading. First, second, and third reading seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Okay, thank you for joining us. And on to 5.1. There are recommendations here. This is regarding the boundary extension alternative approval process, and I'll look to staff to see if anyone wants to just introduce this.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to outline the legislative requirements and processes and the proposed schedule for the alternative approval process for the boundary extension. We're seeking council's direction on whether to proceed to AAP. And this proposed extension would bring in the 5 properties from the Sunshine Coast Regional District into the town of Gibsons. So we are currently in step 4 of 6 steps to get through the approval process. And if this does move forward, it will be sent back to the province for final approval. Let's see. Oh, the elector, the total number of electors for the area has been calculated at 4,014 residents that are eligible, including the 22 non-resident property electors. So that puts the 10% threshold at 401 electors. Approximately $5,000 for advertising and whatnot to get this through. And yeah, I think that's probably it. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, there's a very thorough report here and a thorough recommendation to the option 1, just kind of outlining the steps to follow the process. Councillor Kroll?
I'd like to move option 1 as presented.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Andrade. Any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. And I think we're ready to go to item 5.2, which is the 528 Marine Drive Form and Character Development Permit. And this is a property and development application we're very familiar with. We've seen a few times, and I think the architect, Scott Keck, is here to make a presentation to start us off. Should we go straight to Scott, or did you want to? Okay, I'll go to Leslie Ann first, yeah.
Thanks, I could do a quick.
Sorry,
intro.
is there?
That's okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the second version of the duplex. This is for a form and character development permit. It needs council approval before a building permit can be issued. Scott Keck, the architect, is here to present the revised plans. And in the report, there are 2 options provided, and staff are recommending option 1, which is to issue the permit. So I'll let Scott go through his presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie Ann. Can I? Okay, good. Thanks, Mayor and Council, for your continued attention to this project. I know it's been a long one, so I'll try to make this quick. I want to do 3 things up here. First, I want to remind everyone of the challenges of the site. Second, I want to more clearly illustrate the landscape design. And finally, I want to describe the changes that were made as a result of both the APC and the comments from your last meeting. I've got the family members here as well. So we have some supporters in the audience. If you want to ask questions to the owners, you're welcome to do that. So this is a street view here of 2009 of Coles Marine, and the hostel, which is the subject site, is behind that. You can actually see a little sign above the garbage cans. That's how you get to the entrance of that building. And I'm showing this as a reminder of the historic use of this area, and then it's really been more suited to kind of service and hospitality than it is to like single family residential, which is why we had to rezone it. It's a very unique part of the town. So I believe that this, along with the geomorphology or the shape of the site, show that it's a really unique strip of land. It's connected to Heritage Hill, but it's sort of different in spirit. This is 512 Marine Drive. It's similar to our site in many ways. The grade is level with the highway. There's no windows. There's only doors and side lights, both for privacy, but because there's really no other room along the building to accommodate living space. All the living space is on the water side. That's a huge change in grade, and it's likely a result of restrictions from the zoning. So I don't want to comment on the particular attractiveness of this building, but I only think that it helps describe the kind of pattern of development that we see along this little stretch of road here, which is very much squeezed between Marine Drive and the water. So this is the subject property here. It's kind of similar to 512 in some ways in that it is a long and low building. I think in the future, if we see development at Coles Marine, it'll be similar to this type of building actually, because of the constraints kind of force it into a typology of a building. And so I think when people see kind of a series of potential proposals along the strip of land, it'll kind of help them to better understand the constraints that this area has created. And if we see kind of a similar typology along that route, it might not feel as out of place, or they might make sense as a collection. Finally, there was a building that this was described as a bunker, and I totally appreciate that sentiment, but I think it's got more soul than that, and I almost want to call it a hobbit house. And I think that this is the kind of building that when people see it, they're going to say, wow, what a cool and unique building, and I love it. And it's just like the way that I think people say that about Gibsons, what a cool and unique town, and I love it. Okay, so enough about the site. We'll go to the building and the landscape. So for the landscape at the front of the house, we have mature plantings on the corners of the site, kind of the only place we can have mature plantings. And then we have a layered feature, it's like a hedge, basically, a series of sort of privacy screens to the front of the building there. That kind of hides the building a little bit and gives the owner some privacy. We are trying to actually terrace the building as much as possible. So the building in 1.5 stories actually has 4 different roof heights, which is quite a challenge from a design point of view structurally. We have solar panels at the front, which is a direct request from the APC, and then we have a green roof, which is a direct request from the APC as well. So the draft heritage guidelines that we were also asked to look at, thank you, says no green roofs are allowed, but the OCP kind of likes green roofs and recommends them if you have a flat roof, and they recommend them for other reasons too, for habitat creation and reduction in greenhouse gas. So there is really kind of a difference between those two guidelines. So it's been a bit confusing to us when we try to sort of satisfy both the heritage guidelines and the OCP, which we should kind of follow. Okay, here's a close-up. So based on the comments, we've incorporated more maritime details. We have maritime lights and wood bollards for site addressing. And we have a wood door which has a chevron pattern to it, which is kind of a universal detail, but it's also indicative of weaving patterns and fish traps. And we're happy to continue to incorporate these details as much as possible. So we have wood siding. We've got a sample here to pass around. That's at the front, the wood siding there. We had a comment where someone kind of just said, oh, it's beige siding and it doesn't look nice, but I don't know, I think if anyone sees that, I can't imagine that they wouldn't want that on a building in the town. Okay, so here's the water side. So from the changes that we made from the last meeting was we changed the cladding entirely. So it was all a cement panel before, and we've changed it to board and batten on the base, and sort of a faux wood siding on the top. I've got a sample of that here too. So it's would be this color, but in this style. It's kind of like truck stack, but it's for wood siding. It's new material. From anywhere, wherever you stand, you won't be able to tell that that's not wood, especially from the seawall. And the idea is that it's easy to maintain. So we changed the railings. Excuse me, they're now all wood post and wood cap, as opposed to metal, which we had before. Interestingly, if you look at all the new homes getting renovated by Bayview down on the water, there's 5 homes right in a row. They all have aluminum railing, aluminum glass railing, and sometimes with no wood cap or no cap at all. So it's quite modern looking. So this is a bit of a departure from that. So we have further attempted more terracing as well. We've set back the upper level a little bit more, and that allowed us to create this band of wood on top. and sort of introduce some more horizontality to the design, which we think kind of lowers the height of the building and it's less impressive from the water side. Okay, for the landscape, it's a similar strategy to the front. There's low plantings with taller hedges for screening. And the property line is at the wood fence right here. This is the property line right along here. So that's where the fencing will be. And everything in front of that is public land. So the idea is that we landscape that. And we introduced a seating area right there with mature trees covering both the tall wall, which is the flood construction level wall, which is a large concrete wall. So that'll be ideally kind of screened from the landscape and also create privacy for people sitting on the bench. This is the view kind of walking into that first unit there with a low wood gate. And then this is the view of the second suite, kind of walking in and turning the corner. We're trying to sort of use the landscape to sort of create corners. That way you're not looking directly into someone's suite or walking directly onto it. You would turn the corner and then enter a gate. Little details like that. And thanks for your time.
Councillor Lumley has a question. I'm going to open things up to questions.
I have a comment and questions. First of all, kudos for doing what you did on this property. Obviously, you're not the first rendition that council has seen. And I don't know if the mayor maybe, but I think the green roof resistance was probably moss and green tarps. Because my friend lives up there and there's like roofs with tarps on them and they're green, so maybe that was the idea. But plants on the roof are a good thing, right? Thanks for bringing the materials in, because that was one of my questions, and I think I've brought this up before to council, is that some of these, mandating these developments to use wood has to be maintained. And what happens is these projects end up looking almost derelict with the amount of wood that's used and then the non-maintenance of the wood. And without naming certain projects, but there are some as you drive up Gibsons Way that, like I've said this before, that development, nothing against anyone that lives there, the developer, but all that wood that's used as a feature is just not being maintained. So now it's just like it's rotten. So, and I know in the report it said when possible you'll use wood, but that material there that looks like wood, probably low maintenance, it's probably better all around. I'm completely for that, because I would like, if the building looks like this, if the landscape looks like this, and you use those products, and it always looks like this, I think that's what I'd like to see. Nothing that needs maintenance, it doesn't get maintenance, then all of a sudden it's on the sea path and it's an eyesore. So those are my comments.
Okay. Yeah, and I'd really encourage councillors to ask questions right now of the architect to start, and we'll probably have a motion later. I've got Councillor DeAndrade first, and then Councillor Thompson. Questions of staff too, of course.
Yeah, I have actually two questions. Well, thanks. I said here that architects can make miracle, I believe. So anyways, the change in color I think was a big one, because I think before it was too heavy. So I appreciate it, and I totally share the site limitation. With regard to the green roof, I mean, it's really beautiful, but how is realistically the maintenance over the year and winter? What happens? Is there, I know one of the councillors mentioned there's new ways of doing green roofs. I'm not sure where, but what's the likelihood that it look good most of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be designed to fill in. So I wish the landscape architect were here to comment specifically, because my knowledge is limited. But they do design it to kind of fill in, and it will indeed take maintenance. So it'll have to be set on a program, on kind of a yearly maintenance program, just like you would for any kind of other landscaping on the ground. So I would expect that there would be people on the roof kind of replanting and trimming and keeping it healthy.
Sure, ask another one.
Thank you. I think I want to understand in terms of the ADP, the guidelines from the Heritage Society that council endorsed. Has this been officially presented to the ADP? I know last meeting we made a recommendation for this project, but I'm just trying to understand, because I think it would be great if this is already introduced and we avoid some hiccups.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the mayor, no, the guidelines have not formally been presented to the ADP. We received the draft version from the Heritage Society that council passed a resolution, I think, that said to consider them in the new OCP. So they're being considered in the new development permit area guidelines. That the intent is to incorporate some of the heritage guidelines in the updated form and character development permit area. But right now, the form and character guidelines are the ones that are adopted in the official community plan.
Yeah, I think in some ways it would make things even more confusing to get the ADP to be following two different guidelines, but we did endorse them to be shared with all developments that kind of come forward in the harbor, in the Seaside Village defining area, so that they could be considered.
Okay,
But yeah, we're obviously in an awkward spot right now where
Yeah.
our OCP is just getting updated, so.
But just to understand, so we will be shared with the developers. I just want to avoid the process that the developer comes, does something, and then after we recommend to go back to the guidelines.
And I do think it will be helpful for the ADP to be aware of them. Obviously, some members are, because one member at least is on the Heritage Society as well. But I think it'll be soon that we actually have an OCP update. But it would probably be a good idea if maybe we had a presentation to the ADP with the kind of the qualification that these aren't the guidelines that we statutorily want you and need you to follow. That has to be the OCP, but these are also a way that we could be defining Seaside Village character. So I think that's what we should do. Yeah. So that's a good thought. I've had the same thought myself, and I'll go to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. My question was also regarding the green roof, so that's been answered. I appreciate the landscape detail. That was really helpful to see it in such detail. So I'm just going to ask a very simple question: is with the road facing above the doors, are those awnings in the front entrance doors?
Yeah, they're sort of faux awnings. The challenge with this property is that the building is right on the property line, like literally at zero lot line. And so, as I understand it, any part that's a canopy is a structure. And so in order to create that, I have to set back the building 2 feet. And the lot is so skinny that the interior space becomes very challenging if I want to kind of add any awning feature to it. And so that's why I've got the building kind of pushed right on the edge right there. So it's sort of a kind of a nod to a kind of covering, but it's very minimal at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I really applaud what you've managed to do on this site. And the green roof is interesting because in an earlier iteration on this site, the building was slightly higher, and the huge complaint by people across the street was their view was going to be blocked. And if people are looking down on a roof, it's a lot aesthetically more pleasing to look down on a green roof. So kudos there. And to Councillor Thompson's point, with Persephone Point, we had to grant a variance for them to put their awnings out because they were, again, on the property line and they were extending into town property. So, the constraints you've been given with the site and one thing and another, I just applaud what you've been able to do and the new use of materials. And, I go back even further than Coles Marine. That used to be Hills Marine, and it was established by George Hill in 1947, just after the war. And, the building had character. It did become a residence at one point, which even though it wasn't zoned for that. So I like the way you've treated the whole thing and the sort of reflection to the history of the area. So I certainly applaud what you've done.
Thank you.
And just on green roofs, I've been involved with a couple of projects with green roofs. And as Scott mentioned, about once a year, people would come in and do a little weeding. And the biggest problem sometimes is birds moving in, thinking this is wonderful habitat, which is supporting nature. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I would love to have an awning here, so a variance is a good solution, actually. I did think about that, but given the timing, I didn't propose it, but maybe it's something we look at.
Councillor D'Andrade?
Actually, I was going to ask the question if it's the desire of the architect and the developers to do an awning. I'm willing to give a variance. I think in this particular case, it's very deserved a variance. And if the awning is going to enhance the character and even give more protection when you're at the door, I'm happy to.
Well, I'm going to discourage that because no application has come in for a variance, so I just don't really want to go there. I hear the architect saying they might be willing, but no application is, we're not looking at a variance application right now. We're looking at form and character, so we could keep considering the same property for 2 years, so. I mean, if it's, I don't see a lot of enthusiasm for that in the audience, but it's been a while. It's been taken, Councillor Kroll.
I want to live in it.
I just mean to say that I like awnings and I'm not opposed to it, and I would do one if I could.
Thank you, Mayor White. I would like to move the options in option 1.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Kroll, or Councillor Lumley, seconds the motion by Councillor Kroll for option 1. I do want to acknowledge that we did receive some written input on this too. There were some residents of Heritage Hills who had some critiques, varying from, I'd say, defamatory, unfortunately, in one case, to and that just really emphasized to me that this is like, a lot of this is subjective. Like, sure, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of positive responses from council on the look of this building, and I agree. And it doesn't mean that everyone's going to feel the same way, though. I mean, this is any architect, any artist, anyone will know that it's subjective. So we did get some responses, so I want to acknowledge that. But also, this design has come a long way, as council's acknowledged. There has been a shift, and I think I'm hearing that council really appreciates the move to kind of a more natural look, and that's it. Looking ahead, that I've talked about this many times before, but like, I don't think the future of Gibsons is going to be old net sheds and an old fishing village, because I've actually talked to a couple commercial fishermen the last couple weeks, and they're not looking very positively on their modern fishing future. So I think we need to be looking at Seaside Village in a modern context. Really, it's the world does evolve. And I'll go to Councillor Kroll. Oh no, Councillor D'Andrade. It was Councillor
Thank
D'Andrade.
you. Just a process question regarding to that. So once we approve form and character, does that mean if there's a desire to do something to apply for a variance or no? Just trying to
No,
understand.
we don't just issue variances. They have to, an application has to come forward. So yeah.
Just a clarification. I understand that application, but this is possible after we approve?
I mean, possibly, no. I mean, actually, we've already done so much, I think. Like, the variance would have had to come before the last process, wouldn't it? Like, or would it be form and character? Yeah, I'll go to planning, but this is kind of if we want to throw a wrench in things, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. So there wouldn't be a variance for this because this is already a zero property line setback, we'd be looking at an encroachment agreement because it would encroach into town property. So they could get their
Yeah.
form and character permit and then apply for a building permit. And if they wanted to look at an encroachment, then they would apply for that and we would process that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I'm not personally so excited about like an encroachment agreement around like valued town property. I don't think that we're gonna get a lot of positive public feedback on that, actually, even though we are getting a lot of, not a lot, we're getting a few emails saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice if there were an overhang? Well, it would be nice, but there's no room. This is a really difficult lot to deal with. As we saw in a previous incarnation of this with the previous property owner, which council said no to because it was so hard to build on this lot. So, I mean, with this one from the start, we've had a lot of appreciation for making it work, especially when it comes to keeping the height down so that people's views are preserved. Councillor Lumley.
My suggestion, if you're that passionate about the design and development of Lower Gibsons, you should run for council at the next election. I mean, people send in these horrifically strong opinions about what Gibson should be. So, but I think in this case, they've done such a good job, and it's up to council, and then we have to make a decision.
Yeah, though, yeah, I don't quite personally quite like being the arbiter of architecture. Either I never ran for that, but I think the official community plan. Another point is we're updating our official community plan right now. We've invited a lot of input to that. We've received a lot of input to that. So I think I'd really strongly invite people to continue to provide their input into that, because I think that will help guide. That's guiding this this application and other applications we've been looking at, and the updated version will guide future applications. Any more comments? All those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. Thank you. So moving on to item 5.3, this is the parcel tax roll review panel. Just confirming that that will take place on May 6th, 2025 at 3 p.m. I think we've just recently scheduled another meeting for that day, but it's early enough that there's not going to be any concern about overlap there, I don't think so. We have a... Now, this usually takes like 3 minutes, right? Could we say at least 3:15?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Could someone make that motion that it be at 3:15? Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. This is for the parcel tax roll review panel, and all those in favor? That will be on May 6, 2025 at 3:15 p.m. And next meeting of council is April 22nd, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. We also have a special meeting April 14th, and that is to look at our 2025 budget. And that starts at 11, 11 a.m. And now we can adjourn. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you.